Once the preseason predictions drop for the college football playoffs, similar programs surface every season. Staples like Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, Clemson, and Alabama. However, no one predicted TCU's incredible run to the championship game last season. They were considered 17,500 plus odds to win the title before the season started. Veteran head coach Gary Patterson had agreed to mutually part ways, and longtime head coach Sonny Dykes took the helm and led the Horned Frogs to an amazing 13-2 record. TCU stunned the nation, posting a perfect 12-0 regular season record and thumping Michigan in an opening playoff game. No one saw it coming. Anyone other than the staff and players from TCU told you that, you would have thought they were crazy. Less than 5 months away, the 2023 college football season kicks off. Which team can pull off an unforgettable season reminiscent of TCU? AB, who you have?
For my surprise team, I got the Oregon Ducks, right? 2022, they were 10-3, second in the Pac-12. They're expected to return 6 starters on offense, 5 on defense, but they do have some key losses, right? Alex Forsyth and Noah Sewell on the offensive line, right? And then for wide receiver, they got Trayshawn Holden, Tess Johnson, and cornerback Dalen Austin. They have some losses, but I expect them to come back and ball next year, right? They are returning. Bo Nix announced that he was going to come, right? He threw for 3,600 yards last year, if I'm not mistaken, and 44 touchdowns. And Dan Lannon is a defensive genius. And I know they play in the Pac-12, so, scheming up against those offenses is probably not hard to do. But I think they're going to be humming. I see them potentially a surprise team. But their schedule is not easy. USC is at Oregon. They are at Utah. So they're at Utah, which is going to be a tough game. That's a tough place to play. And they have Colorado at home. But as far as their non-conference schedule, Portland State, Texas Tech, and Hawaii. So if they can get past USC and Utah, not to mention Washington, they go to Washington this year, right? That's not going to be an easy game. But if they can, make their way through that little tough 3 or 4 week schedule, I think they're going to be okay.
They had a heck of a season last year. Bo Nix was amazing, right? I mean, he was mentioned for the Heisman Trophy at one time. Dan Lanning is a defensive genius. And one of the things that he did is in the transfer portal, he picked up a lot of defenders, right, to tighten up their defense. I think Oregon will be a strong contender in the Pac-12. However, you got some stalwarts there. USC, Washington. I don't know if they can make it out of there. I don't know if Oregon is ready for that. But it will be interesting to see how Dan Lanning does in his second year in Eugene.
So Utah, back-to-back Pac-12 champs, and they got they're returning their starter. He did have an ACL injury at the end of the season for Cam Rising, but he should be back. Maybe not the first couple games. They start off the season with Florida. If they can get past Florida and get into the easier next 3 games without Cam Rising, I think they'll be all right. But they have, out of all the teams in the Pac-12, they're touted as one of the better defensive teams. So I think if they can stop USC and the rest of these high-powered offenses, Washington, I think they have a chance to make a run for a championship. Like I said, they open up the season with Florida, then they got Baylor at Waco, UCLA, Oregon State, USC, Oregon, Washington. So they're playing all the teams, and they can win their conference and win out. I think they'll be all right.
I think that Utah, as the defending back-to-back Pac-12 champs, right? I think they can get to the college football playoff this year. The biggest thing is going to be the health of Cam Rising. He's going to be needed to get them over the hump. An inexperienced quarterback, can they stand up the likes of a Michael Penix Jr. or Caleb Williams? Can they go toe-to-toe with those guys? So I know Utah's defense is always really good, but that would be my biggest question is what is the health of Cam Rising going to be?
I don't think that if he's not healthy, they had Jaquindon Jackson, right? Who, both of them actually came from Texas, right? They're transfers. And he was a quarterback. And they moved him to running back in Utah. But I'm not sure who the backup quarterback is at Utah, but Cam Rising he's a playmaker and he's a game changer. So if they don't have him, I don't think it can be done. Because think about those games you just listed off in a row. You said UCLA, USC,
Yeah.
Washington, Oregon. Man, that's a tough sled, especially to have all those games back to
Oh
back to
yeah,
back like
they
that.
don't have a easy route.
Yeah,
I think they have one of the more challenging records in the or schedules in the Pac-12, right? But I think what sets them apart, what gives them a better edge, like I said, is their defense.
yeah,
And Cam Rising, his backup is Bryson Barnes, who was number 2 last year. That was his backup. They got Nate Johnson, who was used with their Wildcat packages. So they'll have a battle out to see who's going to be the number 2 to back them up. They did lose some production in the secondary with Clark Phillips, the third.
Mm-hmm.
that guy was a
Uh,
beast, man.
the dude had what? He had a
Yeah,
Pac
he
2. He had
was.
the most interceptions with 6 and
Yeah,
returning a couple in for a touchdown. So
yeah,
they got if they have they got a guy Cole Bishop. He's going to take that position. If he can play even half the caliber of Clark Phillips, they'll be all right at that position. On defense.
They were 9-5 last year. They did win the coastal side of the house of the ACC. And the reason I picked them because I think they have an easy schedule. To me, their two toughest games on the road, and that's at South Carolina and Clemson. Whenever you have a superstar quarterback in college football, it makes the chances of you winning triple, right? Last year, North Carolina had a 26 scoring offense. They returning 7 starters from that offense. The biggest thing they got to replace is 2 wide receivers, which was Josh Downs and Antoine Green. And they picked up 2 in the transfer portal. Devontae Walker coming from Kent State and Nate McCullum coming from Georgia Tech, right? So that's going to help them, their course to get to the national championship. Again, when you got Drake May, right? He's the reigning ACC and the Offensive Player of the Year. He passed for 4,321 yards and 38 touchdowns, and he led the team in rushing, right, with 698 yards. I just think that he is a major factor to why they can get to that next level. He also now has 3 running backs to help take the load off of him with Elijah Green, Omarion Hampton, and George Padaway. Only thing holding North Carolina back is Gene Chizik, right, who was the new defensive coordinator last year. And with their defense, they're returning 8 starters from defense from last year, but their defense ranked 116th in the nation, right? They gave up 436 yards a game, allowed 30 points a game. They only had 17 sacks. They allowed 4.5 yards to carry, and they gave up 29 touchdowns. In the ACC alone, they were last in scoring defense, total defense, and passing defense. Gene Chizik got some work to do.
Yeah.
Again, they got some defenders out of the portal as well, right? So I'm hoping that they can put that all together and make that run for the ACC next year. And one of the reasons I picked them again, because like I said, a favorable schedule, right? I mean, the 2 toughest games is at South Carolina and Clemson, but then like Miami comes to them, right? Duke comes to them. Syracuse comes to them, right? So Minnesota comes to them. App State comes to them. So all those games are at home, right? And just I think that's going to help them. If they were playing those games on the road, I don't know if they could win them all. But I think with them having that favorable home schedule this season, I think that's going to help them tremendously.
yeah.
So looking at their schedule from last year, if they would have had some defense, they had some. Their losses were Notre Dame 45-32. They had Georgia Tech 21-17. NC State. Their only real blowout loss was to Clemson. You know, and and you look at the numbers, man. It's just their defense wasn't able to stop anybody. They lost to Oregon 28-27. And so it's not like their offense can't compete. Their offense can compete. They got a great quarterback who, how many? Well, he had 4,000 something passing yards last year. But yeah, if their defense improves and their schedule, they do got a favorable schedule. I think they can make a run for sure.
That was the only comment I was gonna have, is that their defense is atrocious, man. They couldn't stop a nosebleed last year. It was bad. But Drake May, that guy he's a top 5 pick in the 2025 draft. He'll be a top 5 pick. So I was really impressed with his footwork, his accuracy, his IQ. Yeah, he's gonna be good.
Well, that's it for this week's episode of the Unbiased Room. Please like, subscribe, comment. See you next time. Peace.
Peace.